Welcome to Learning Life Skills Together. This is our weekly community Zoom meeting where our guests help us to go deeper into the 4 life skills and open up a huge array of chances to practice them. Hello, everyone. This is Learning Life Skills Together weekly Zoom meeting number 66 with Kure MacDonald, who is the teen director at the Coatesville YMCA. And we're going to have a chance to talk about teens and how they need to do emotional regulation in the short term, and now that they're teens in the long term. So, as always, we start with a practice to bring ourselves to a place where we can listen and speak with a little more clarity. So we could do an attention practice here. That's one of the quickest ways to help ourselves to regulate emotionally in the present moment. So if you'd like, and if it's safe for you, you could close your eyes. Otherwise, you could just bring your attention into your body and feel where your body is touching down. So maybe you're sitting and you feel the places where your back, your buttocks, your arms, your feet are touching down. You might be standing, you might be lying down. And what you're really feeling are the places where you could rest, allowing gravity to hold you. So if you're standing and you're in balance, you're being held by gravity. If you're sitting or lying down, all those places where you're touching down, you're actually being held. Which maybe means that you could let go of some effort. Maybe you could just check into your body and see if there's effort there that you could just let go of. Just check right through your body, from your head and neck, down through your shoulders and arms. Maybe there's a comfortable, comforting way of holding your arms and hands. Check on down through your trunk and your hips, all the way down to your feet, and see how easily you might be in the way that you are, in the posture that you're in. Now, one way of noticing this and working with this is to just watch what happens as you breathe. So now you're in touch with your body and how it is. And when you breathe in, you can notice how it is in that moment. And as you breathe out, you might notice what happens. Maybe there's a little more of a letting go or a settling in. So maybe just paying attention to your breath for a few cycles of breath. I'll be quiet as you do that. And maybe you could check in and notice how you are right now. Maybe it's different than when we started. Maybe it's the same. Maybe you're more agitated, anxious. I don't know. So, but you know. And so when you're ready, if your eyes have been closed, you could open them. And here we are together. And so I'm here with Kure, and I want to hear more about the teens at the Coatesville Y, and in particular the teens in the Y Achievers group that I'm familiar with now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me with you. And so, like you said, I'm the teen director at the Coatesville YMCA. It was formerly the Brandywine YMCA, but we took Coatesville name back. So, we work with a number of teens from all different ages. So within my scope, I work with teens from the age of 10 all the way up to 21 and what opportunities and what all that looks like in their world. We have two programs that we work with specifically here that we offer for teens. We offer our seventh grade initiative, which reaches out to specifically seventh graders, and that's in the Greater Brandywine Association. So that covers all nine branches. And so that program works where seventh graders receive a free membership for the year, and they're able to come into any branch that's closest to them, and use the wellness studio, use the gym facilities, use the swim facilities, just use the building and experience what it's like to start getting into and thinking about that healthy lifestyle that they want to live and the exercises they can do and the different offerings that the Y has for them. And so they're able to do that for the year, and that comes with a small volunteer request and requirement for the teen, but that's really just to help them assimilate more with the culture of the Y, what our missions are, and the projects that we have going on for the community on a regular
Hmm.
basis. So it helps incorporate them into those missions. And then with that seventh grade membership, they're able to come after school. Most kids come after school. And that's until we're open throughout the evening, and so they're able to use those our amenities throughout the evening. But then we also, in our teen space, offer them time to sit and talk and have a snack with us and talk about their day, talk about how school went. Maybe they need help with a homework assignment, and so we're available, and I'm here to help them through those assignments, understand the concept, not give answers, but lead them to the direction that they need
Hmm.
to be going,
Yeah.
and then offer perspective. Ask questions. What kinds of things do you like? What do you want to try? What do you want to do? Some kids want to do art, and so they like doing clay or drawing after school. Other students want to play video games, and so we have video games here for them to be social and play with, and utilize. We have books here of all different types of subjects that they can look into, including textbooks, so they can
Hmm.
get ahead and if they need to. But the teen space for the seventh graders is for them to be able to socialize in a safe space and roll over with us for their next grade of eighth grade and on into high school, so that they
Yeah.
know that we're a resource here. And then our second program, which you highlighted, was our Y Achievers program. So the Y Achievers program was predominantly started to aid minorities and Black and Brown youth in underserved populated areas. And so it was a measure for them to be able to uh, be success bound and find success through their academics and through their personal endeavors and community service. So, with this Y Achiever program here at the Coatesville Y, um, we open it up to 25 students for the year. It also comes with a free membership for them, so they're able to use the facilities in
Hmm.
all nine branches and the locations.
Oh,
Yeah, and I say that that's great because every branch has a different offering or something different that they
yeah.
could offer a family of interest. And so we like to expose them to those things that we can offer. But through the Y Achievers, students are looking at personal identity. We dive into personal growth, personal relationships, healthy and boundaries with those relationships. And then we go into academic success. So things like time management, organizational efforts, um, how to reach out. And then we move on to mentors. And so that's when that outreach comes into place, and mentors from the community we invite to collaborate with our students, and also bring in what their offerings are as a resource to the community and to the students. So, a unique aspect of Y Achievers is also in being able to include parents. So, we love to be able to have parent resources because, as we all know, they're students, they're youth. They can't do anything without support. And especially parent or guardian support is absolutely necessary.
Uh,
So, we really try to utilize our resources from the community to be able to bring into the classroom and give viable mentors to the students as they continue on their journey. So they might not always be here in the class. We only meet once a week, um, but they're able to utilize those resources as they need going forward. And that's really a great benefit for families. They know that their services are there, and then if they have questions, they know where they can go to get answers. And
yeah,
so supplying that for the students and for the parents is fundamental.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Absolutely. And that, that's the way that we got together as
mhm,
learning life skills together is targeted to parents to help them, as we say, share the
yeah,
4 life skills with the kids. And so it's been wonderful sort of working with you guys. We're looking forward to the next one that we're going to do actually this week. Uh,
yeah,
yeah. Um, Sort of when this is running, when this will stream, will be when we will be doing that program for parents and, really working with the kids. We tend towards artwork, towards making things.
mhm,
And that's really because that's one of the main activities that we know helps people's mental health. So all of the things that we recommend sort of have a scientific evidence base behind them. We talk about going for a walk and
mhm,
all of the things that you can do when you go on a walk. So, it really spins out into a whole lot of interests for people, and then
yeah,
experiencing awe and beauty, and then making things. And so each one of those is hooked up with one of the skills. So the initial one of walking is about paying attention to what's
mhm.
happening around us and how we're feeling about that. And so that's a big one. And so that's kind of the one that underlies everything. When we know what's going on and know what's going on with ourselves, we have choices that we didn't
Mhm.
have before, and that's really important. And it's kind of the one that we hope that the tiniest kids start to pick up on. I'm
Yeah,
feeling this way because this is happening right now in this moment. And then sort of the next level is, what can I do with that when it's not something that's really what I want?
right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, the little kids can learn, oh, I can help myself calm down by doing, really basic things that we really just did
Yeah.
at the beginning here. Just pay attention to yourself in this moment and bring yourself back to what's
Mhm.
happening right now. And so we have lots of techniques to do that are taught throughout the program, in modules 2 and 3. And right now we're really focusing on what happens in module 4. And so, as I was saying, those modules 2 and 3 are really the in the moment things that we can do for ourselves to bring ourselves into balance, to make our life and other people's lives more pleasant, livable, and fruitful. It's when we're paying attention, it's when we know what's going on that we can help people, show our love for people, all that kind of stuff that's so necessary. And now we're sort of in that third thing that we can do, which is to get through tough times. That's the simplest way of putting it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you become a teen, I mean, you're starting at 10, and that's probably about when this starts, right? Is that, oh, I know how to handle myself in an in the moment situation. But right now, I got a problem that's going to go on for a while until I figure out how to solve it or get enough help that it gets solved. So, how do I get through that? How do I work with that? And so, really, there are good ways of getting through it. There are, what we really want to do is to be able to look at what's going on, try to figure it out, work with it, pay attention, and know that it's there. And then maybe we need a break. And so what we want to do is take a break that is going to help things along. That's going to, position me to be able to do something more and better as I get through this. The alternatives are, of course, the things that we all know. We can take a drink, we can get involved in drugs, we can do the kinds of things that numb us, but numbing us really only puts off what's eventually going to happen, right? So you guys at the Y are in that position of offering all these kinds of things that don't numb us, but give us that chance to take a good break from what's happening so that we can go back and look at it again. Like, we know we need to, and we know we need to because that's what's going to solve it. That's what
Yeah.
tuning out does not solve it. So we come back again. And so some of the things that you mentioned, like with the seventh graders getting their access to, swimming, to the gym, to you have a walking track and a cross country track there because you're out in the country and you've really got the space for that. All of those things are wonderful ways of taking that longer break that's not just, what a little kid needs, but what somebody who's growing up needs. And so that's really um, the kinds of things that we're looking at. So offering that physical stuff that goes under our heading of walking, right?
Mhm.
We have 4 sets of activities that we urge people to do, and they're really, just huge categories. But we know that when people do these things, it's good for their mental health. We have the scientific data to say this. So we know that walking is good for us in so many ways, right? So we try to push that. Exercise in general is really good for us.
Mhm.
Having the experience of awe and beauty. And, there are many ways of accessing that, from looking at a picture book with your little kid to going to the movies, to going to a concert, to, doing those kinds of things. That's again that break.
Mhm.
Reading something that really pulls you in, reading a book, a novel that you can't wait to turn the page.
Mhm.
These are the kinds of things that give us that break. And then, you know, the longer term one of making something ourselves. And this is the one that I really want to connect with you on, with the teens and with the achievers as well as with the seventh graders. You know,
Mhm.
it's kind of, maybe I'm overstepping here, but it's kind of your job to help those kids find these longer term things that are healthy and helpful. You know, you and I, before we started recording, we're talking about the fact that work and love are the things that we have that really get us through life when it's not looking so rosy, right? We can reach out and love the people in our life, and that takes us out of ourselves for a little while. And that problem that we have is not so big, and we can go back to it again.
Mhm.
The same thing with what I want to call work in quotes. I didn't get quotes on the visual here, but you know, there are things that we dedicate ourselves to, and it may be learning a particular thing, like becoming really good at photography or drawing or solving equations. It can be all kinds of crazy things that
Mhm.
we, as just as this person, get drawn into and go like, wow, that is so cool. I want to know more about this. We pursue that.
Mhm.
That's one of the words we use. It's a pursuit. And so we chase it across our lives. And when we have those things, those are the things that we fall back on to take that healthy break from the difficult thing that's going on right now. We throw ourselves into it. And so when I say work, I don't necessarily mean, you know, stocking shelves at the Acme.
Yeah.
When you're eating, that might not be that great.
Yeah.
But to have that other thing, and that's what you guys, I think, are about.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, we all need that kind of guidance and even from, especially in teenage age and moving forward as you're trying to accomplish goals. But even if you think back to, preschoolers and being a preschooler, they thrived on knowing what was coming next, right? So you always had to have a
Yeah.
plan. And that fundamentally doesn't change for us as humans because we're able to move forward and say, oh, excuse me, so sorry,
No worries.
I'm sorry, I had students show up. um but so what I was saying was, that a fundamental planning of what comes next never really goes away. And so, as humans, we're always constantly searching for what comes next. And so, when the disconnect comes in, is when students, when you have youth who are going through mentally changing, their mental state changing as they're growing, they still need that planning, even though they're searching for that independence within themselves as they're getting older and what their abilities are, which is rightfully so, they still need that planning to go along with them to help them guide them through the next step.
Mm.
And so what the Y achievers are able to do is when we have the students, it's not as though they just come in and then we just talk about things, but we're really looking at who are you as a person? What are your interests? What things do you really connect with from your experiences thus far in life? Some students have parents who are in theater and who love to act or go to the Renaissance Festival. And that may be a viable part of their life. Whereas other students, it's hockey or equestrian or swim club. So all those things are what I like to call consequential for them, right? Because it makes a difference. And when you
Yeah.
able to connect that student with that interest, now you're on equal playing ground with them where you're able to be at a point where you're meeting them where they are. And then they can see that you're interested in what their interests are. Now you're at a point where you're able to turn over the leaves and pull those resources for them to continue that interest. And so that's really what I'm doing with the Y Achievers is as they're coming into the class, whether they've joined at the beginning of the class or whether they're joining here at the last couple months, it doesn't make a difference really because it's all about them and their interest and how I can connect their interest to consequential thinking. So if they're going to go into swim club, they're going to need the skills to be team members and team building and to understand how to work together and communicate. Those skills are important as we go on into meetings, as we go on into careers. And then, okay, now that you're interested, we understand what your interest is. Is that going to be art-based? Is that going to be service-based? Is that going to be, what category does that fall into so that we can connect you with somebody in the field as a mentor for you to follow up and ask questions. It's one thing just to take, someone and give them the information, but it's another thing to really make it practical for them to be able to use it. And that's where we're really coming in with Y Achievers. We're breaking these students down into the categories based off of their interests. So we have an art cluster, a community service cluster, an athletic health cluster, and a communications cluster. And these students are working and going to uh, community events, resources, activities that are surrounding around their cluster. So they might go to the library for a reading if they're interested in the arts cluster or to meet an author. We just recently did a college tour, but we offered them as a virtual college tour or a physical college tour of actually Westchester University.
Ah,
And so the students were able to take their scavenger hunt sheets and go and tour the college and look for certain buildings or, like the Ram statue on Westchester's University's campus, the mascot, and take pictures and bring that back to the class and share what they've learned, or do a virtual tour of a college that they would like to do. But they're doing that with their parent. So
mm,
parent
yeah,
understands where their student is as far as their interests. And when we're able to wrap that parent into that student's interest, we're able to reconnect them where they might have been pulled apart because of school and work and different activities and things going on.
yeah.
They're able to connect, even if it's only, like you said, walking around a campus and talking about, well, this is interesting, or look at that, or would you like this? Are you interested in this field? So many parents have come back to me after we've done college tours and said, that was informative. I had no idea they were interested in engineering
Mm.
or interested in, medical field. And us being able to go on this tour and you facilitating this is great for us to be able to really talk about what's next.
Yeah, this is a really important part, I think, of the service that you offer and that getting those outside perspectives have. You were talking about how, the kids, maybe the family is really interested in canoeing or going to the Renaissance Fair or whatever it happens to be, and so that becomes part of them. And they need the chance to discover other things too, because not every kid is going to connect at every moment with what the family is doing, especially as they teen more and more, right? So to be able to have those options out there and to have the parents connect with them at the same time,
Yeah.
say,
We've
oh, I had no idea that
right.
you would be interested in this, or two, that it actually existed because I don't think about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's another important point is leading them to exposure as well, because you can be in your rut and in your track or doing what you're doing and not even realize that I'm actually really great at photography and I never considered it, or how I see things in this spectrum. I never thought other people might be interested and I'd be a great public speaker about that. So we're
Yeah.
We're able to expose the students. For instance, we have a storyteller coming this Saturday. Most students would not consider themselves as a storyteller, but what's the most important story that you can tell? It's your own. And when you meet people, they want to know your story. And the best thing to do is to be equipped to be able to tell that story effectively with
Mm.
whatever time you have, right? So time
Yeah.
management is another thing we touch on with students or
Yeah.
but it's a great resource for them to see a local storyteller that was a teacher in the Coatesville area for so many years, turned a passion into a profession and is able to show that as this is a viable source for you in the future if you have this talent. And
Yeah.
how do you know that unless you're exposed, right? But
Yeah. No,
even still,
exactly.
parents are still growing. So even as adults, you never stop growing or learning. And
Yeah.
you might find a passion that your child has that would be something that you could tap into as well. So
Yeah.
really focusing on the family as a whole and not just separating it, but only taking out the student to give them the interest to filter back into the family, right? So
Yeah.
that's what we're really trying to build their character, respond and meet to where they are with their interests and turn those passions into careers for
Yeah.
them in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah. And from my tiny little perspective of, youth mental health, that finding that passion is so important in exactly what we're talking about right now, getting through tough times. It's
Hmm.
it's the things that we're passionate about. It's the things we can throw ourselves into that really give us that clear space to go back and solve the problem or to go back and continue to work on it, which is
Hmm.
which is often the stage, right?
And like you said, art is a great medium
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
Express art is what is expression. So when especially students are able to express themselves with whatever art it may be,
Yeah.
you really find, that mental capacity to handle more, to organize yourself, because now things, like I said, they're consequential. So now you're thinking, how do I get back to this euphoric stage where I was enjoying this moment? And how do I facilitate that in my life, right? So
Yeah.
giving
Yeah.
students the skills to be able to self-regulate and match that skill set that you're helping us find with life skills along with their passions and able to move forward, I think is a win-win-win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I highly recommend your program
Mhm.
and other ways of finding that objective way of exposing the kids to more options, more ideas, more ways of, I want to bring it back to making. It's like when we can do something that has an effect in the world, whether it's making a piece of art, which has an effect in the world, right? Or being a part of, a group, being a part of a team that has that long-term piece of it's work and love that help us. It's work,
Yeah.
love that get us through. And so, yeah. And the why helps us do that.
Yeah.
No matter how old we are, actually. There's ways of linking that up. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for talking with us. It's a great thing. The Y Achievers for teens and the seventh grade. What is it called?
Initiative.
The seventh grade initiative. There you go.
Initiative. Yeah. We
Um,
call them our 7GI students. So yeah.
okay, I like it.
Yeah.
Right. So there it is, folks. Take advantage and keep thinking and take a look at our new module that is up on getting through tough times. Thanks so much, Kure.
Thank you.